founders, it's Christy Barasia, and I'm your catalyst to finding her. Let's get started. Everyone, welcome to Finding Her. My name is Christy Barasia, and as you know, I am not a life coach. I am not a therapist. Hell, I am not a psychologist. I am just a girl in her 40s. Yes, I know, late 40s. Just trying to figure this shit out. And I have just been through so many changes personally and professionally that led me to places I never thought I would be. But once again, here we are. And I will continue to make mistakes. And I will continue to make a lot more mistakes. But the bottom line is it truly keeps life interesting and it makes fabulous stories. And with those stories, they are going to be from my perspective. So if you think these stories are different than how they really happened, that's totally fine. They're solely from my perspective, and they're to protect the innocent and, of course, the guilty. Just to make a very long story short, what I am more than anything else is just a catalyst for change. So let's talk about it. And I can't believe this. We are on the last and final step of finding her, which is amazing. Congratulations. Here we are. But let's talk about where we began, which was starting over, which then leads into forgiveness, and then learning how to be accountable, and then taking that accountability and developing yourself. And then when you're developing yourself, you're starting to build your wealth. You're starting to brand. You're starting to expand. You learn how to fully silence the noise, and then get to the point where you're getting back in the world of dating and life itself with having no expectations. But then, after you have all those skills put together, you only get to the one and final point of giving zero fucks. So here we are. And just as we get to that part of giving zero fucks, I just want to kind of reiterate what we talked about last week, which was no expectations, because, you know, I like to talk a lot. And with me yapping and yapping and yapping, sometimes those key points get lost in the shuffle. So I just want to reiterate them because, you know, they're very important. So the first one is treating every encounter like an opportunity for long or short-term love, friendship, or business, because things don't always appear in the way that you expect. So understanding, especially number one, first and foremost point of no expectations is when you meet someone, understanding that you're not going to strong arm that relationship. So even if you're on a date, that date could end up being a good friend, a good fuck for the night. It could be a long-term relationship. It could be a 3-month relationship. It could be a business contact. It could be a friendship. There's so many factors that take into place that it could be a lesson. I mean, there's so many opportunities that present itself if you allow them to present themselves. If you try to force it into what you think it should be based on what you need right now, it's time wasted, it's a contact wasted, it's a connection wasted, and it's something that you're just looking at from a perspective that is very short-minded and will ultimately be short-termed. Number 2, learning how to date without pressure or preconceived notions, which is what I'm talking about right now, is that if you go into something, even if it's meant to be a relationship, and you go into that date or that interaction or that meeting in a way that you are instantly putting pressure on that other individual, it's going to explode. It's going to blow up because things take time to build. Slow burns in any relationship are the key to sustainability. When it's hot, fast, and just instant, as much as you hear about it in the movies where it's, oh, it was true love at the first, moment and this and that and whatever the case is, I'll be nice and say 50% of the time. I'm going to say 80 to 90% of the time. That is it's just real quick passion. And as quick as it comes in, it goes out just as quick. So, learning how to not have that pressure on someone is really something that I think is critical. And also not having preconceived notions. You got to leave your past in the past, which I'm hoping founders at this point, you've done the work and you're good to go and you feel good about it. But also understanding that that person that you are dating or attempting to meet for the first time may have those preconceived notions, which is a red flag. But being able to see them within yourself and see them within others to maneuver through these relationships and take them to the term that they're supposed to go to, which could be just that one time. Could be 1 month, could be 1 year, could be 10 years, could be forever, whatever the case is. But just understanding how to deal with the past, healing from the past, not taking it into the present, but also when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And if you see things that you are not okay with, that are deal breakers for you, being able to walk away. Number 3, making decisions without being influenced by outside judgments or society norms. We don't all need to get married. Marriage isn't the key to success. We don't all need to be in a relationship, because sometimes people are in relationships and they're miserable. Sometimes they're in marriages and they're miserable. And whatever society says, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And society doesn't know what's best for you. There's a lot of gray areas, and everybody likes to box ideas and concepts into certain elements, like we are, checking off a questionnaire. And that is not what a relationship is. And relationships look very different for different people. Just when they do look different, you need to make sure that they look differently for you in a way that is authentic, and you're not compromising what it should look like based on the other person. So making sure that this is wholeheartedly what you are looking for and how you're looking for it, and it fits the pieces in your puzzle. And if it does, then it'll work for everybody else that's involved in that relationship, and with society and with people around you. That's where we go back to silencing the noise. And if they don't like it, it's too fucking bad, because it's not their relationship to make that decision. If they do see you and it's people that love and care, and that they have been vetted as your inner circle, and you're in a situation where the person might be cheating on you, and it's the type of situation where they are looking at your best interest, where they see that you're upset, they see that you're miserable, they see that you're hurt. That's different than influencing you to do something that you don't want to do, where they might just see something differently. So knowing the difference between the two, I think, is a critical factor too, because people that love and care about you, that are genuinely there for you and on your side and supportive, are going to shoot straight with you, and that is not always fun, and that's not always easy to hear. But those are the people that are in it for the long run, and that's really important. So sometimes they'll see things that you don't see because you are in it, and understanding that. But there's a difference between that and doing what is expected by, your religion, your culture, your society, your state that you live in, your city, whatever, the gossip that's going on. All of that stuff has no influence on where you need to be when you're making decisions about your personal life and your personal relationships. Number 4, loving yourself enough to accept nothing less than what you deserve. And what you deserve is the fucking best. So, deserve comes from building that foundation. That's a solid foundation, and doing the work on yourself and bringing to the table what you expect of others. So if you've done the work and you have certain expectations in what you are willing to compromise and what you are unwilling to compromise with, meaning those core values, those expectations are different than expecting someone to take shape in a relationship. Expecting someone to respect you, to be authentic, to be genuine, to be transparent, whatever those core factors are. I use the word expect with the understanding that they might not have that. And when they don't have those core values or those core elements that are super important to you, then you need to be okay with walking away. Now, I give people the benefit of the doubt. I let them show me who they are, and then I believe them, and that is something that's so critical. But it's also understanding that if you expect them to respect you and they don't respect you from the beginning, it's never going to change. So knowing where that is. And when I say compromise might mean, you meet someone that you feel is the right fit. There's long term. You've done the work. We're getting to the next phase. And you both live in two different cities, and maybe your job is remote and their job is not. Well, maybe that compromise is you moving to that other city to be with that person. So yes, relationships take compromise. Compromise is a word that's used in different forms where you're not compromising your integrity and your values. You might be compromising on where you are at this point in your life because, as we all know, the older you get, the more challenges there are with, whether there's children and school and with divorces. Sometimes, you can only be in a certain state based on what the divorce agreement is. I mean, there's certain things that you may need to compromise, but when that person shows you those values that you see that are worth that long-term investment and that commitment, they've done the work, you've done the work, and it's something that is meant to be, and that's done through not having expectations of strong-arming into something that it's not, then it's working together to come up with a fair and equal solution, which is a good thing. Number 5, listening to your intuition and believing the red flags when they're presented. I talk about this all the time. So when they show you who they are, believe them. And, understanding that when you're younger, people take time to grow in. And I talk about that too. In your 20s, you really don't know who you are. In the 30s, you're starting to find out who you are. In your 40s, you start really learning, who you are. And with that, it's people don't change. Like, they don't, if there's core things that you see, there's a difference between not agreeing with someone and actually seeing something that you're like, oh, they'll change that later. Oh, they'll get better. If I stay with them for 6 months, they'll do that for me. They're not going to do that. It's not who they are. I mean, if you meet somebody that is more passive, that is comfortable in working in an environment that, it's a corporate environment that they get paid every week and it's comfortable and it's safe, that person is not going to wake up the next day or 2 years later and turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to quit my job and start my own company and take all these risks. And the thing is, to each his own. I mean, everyone has different things that they value and comforts that they feel makes them happy with a partnership. But changing who that person is not something that's going to happen. And I don't like to use the words, what are you willing to put up with and not willing to put up with? It's being reasonable. If you're dating someone in their 50s and they happen to have kids, it is what it is. I mean, most people, will have kids versus not having children. So are you willing to put up with younger children, or are maybe they're older and they're off in college and there's so many different aspects to that compromise and aspects to that relationship that aren't black and white, that are very, very gray. But understanding what it is, but using it, and I'm using these words in layman terms because I don't want you to at me and be like, well, you said not to have expectation, and you said not to do this, and you said not to compromise. It's a different type. There's different levels of that, because you can't go into a relationship saying, this is what I want, this is how it is, and this is what it looks like, and that's it. Because you are never going to find, you're strong-arming something into something that person may not be, and then it's going to ultimately just end in parting ways. So understanding what your core values are, understanding that these are the things that you're willing to work on together, and these are the things that you're not willing to work on, like infidelity or lying, or, for me, an important thing is dating someone that has goals and has drive and is competitive, and competitive in a way that's a healthy competition, not necessarily a, cut your throat to win situation, because that kind it goes back to morals and being ethical. But having those core values of understanding, but also understanding at different phases of people's lives, those kind of values tend to shift, or they become softer, or they become more substantial. So being able to see that, being able to understand that, but not doing it in a way that you're taking less than you deserve, because a lot of time women do that. And when you've done the work and you've built yourself and you've become a full person, that you're coming into a new relationship where you're not bringing in the, generational issues, when you're not bringing in the generational traumas, the hurt from past relationships. Like when you fully healed, you've learned the lessons and come into something organically and honest and open, you expect the same from that same person. And when it's the right person, it's going to click. But in the meantime, while it's not, and while it's still in that process of growing, date others. Like I told you, date a basketball team, date 5, because it will not force you to be laser focused on one person and add that pressure and add that expectation back in there. Even though you think you're not doing it, you end up doing it. So doing it in a way that you're just kind of keeping it open, keeping your mind open, keeping things fresh, keeping things light, but also seeing who they are for what they say they are, but what they present themselves as, and believe them. When they tell you, when you see it, believe them. And make your decisions based on that, instead of making your decisions on the cloud of love or the cloud of having this or romanticizing something that it's not. Number 5, listening to your intuition and believing the red flags when they're presented, which is just what I said. So I kind of go into it, and as you can see with no expectations, there's a story that's told for each interaction that you have there, and going back to understanding that and the theory that the first 3 months people are going to present you, because sometimes they're not always healed fully, they're going to present you with who they think they want you to see. 3 to 6 months, you're going to start seeing some of those red flags that happen, which you're going to think are not, that are just one-offs, because that first 3 months of that fake person or that character of is not really what that is. And then all of a sudden you're in 6 to 9 months and you're looking and it's starting to occur more, but you're kind of like invested. So you just kind of start putting up with the bullshit, or putting up with that, or compromising in a way that's not of the best and highest good for you. And then being at that point where you're just like, I'm in it, stick into it, because it's easier to not just start all over again. It's actually better to start all over again, because then you're now next thing you know it, into a year with a relationship with someone that wasn't the same person that you initially met. They basically bait and switched, and you're now living together, or you're or there's other commitments that happen where it's harder to get out of it. It's so much easier to get out of it in that first 3 to 6 months. Cut your losses, keep it moving, because there's something so much better out there for you, and you have to trust and believe in that, and believe that you've done the work. And it's going to come back tenfold in a way that you're going to be like so excited and so happy, where you just feel like you don't know what you would have done, or you didn't know what you did before you met this person. And they make a difference in your life, because it's about being that soul individual and bringing to the table yourself, who is amazing, and having that same person do the same. And it just becomes just such a compliment to each other. And not saying it's perfect every day, but it's pretty damn perfect to begin with. And number 6, trusting the process by being open to receiving and comfortable with walking away. Like I just said, it's okay. It's okay to walk, because, all you're looking for is that one amazing person. There's billions of people. So you're going to kiss a lot of frogs before you find that right one. And I'm not going to use the word prince or princess. I'm going to use that right one, because I don't believe in the whole fairy tale of it all. I plan weddings for a living. Yes, the events look like they're fairy tale and they're beautiful, but the real work is after the wedding. The real work is the relationship into the wedding and after the wedding. It's those are the more important things. And the relationship doesn't have to be justified by a wedding either. I mean, that's another thing. So, or a marriage, I should say. So it's trusting that process, but understanding that every person is not meant for you. Every person, you are meant to interact with them, but with those interactions, it could be a friendship, it could be a lesson, it could be a business contact, it could be just fun for the night, it could be, a short-term relationship or a long-term relationship. I mean, there's so many different elements that can happen, and there's so many different scenarios. So trust the process. Trust yourself. Don't worry about be okay with being by yourself. Because when you're okay with being by yourself, you realize you're a pretty fucking amazing person. And when you realize you're a fucking amazing person, you know what your value is and you know how to present that to others. And it becomes different because you attract different. And, you also want to always make sure, and I think it's just keeping it humble, is you never want to ask something of anybody that you can't give yourself or will continue to give yourself. And that's, I think, something that's a really important lesson too, where you want to be able to be a balance, be an asset while they're an asset to you too. You don't want to be a dependent. You don't want to be a drag. You don't want to be that weight that drags somebody down. And it changes the game big time. And it's a special place to be. So as we get to that point, we are diving into the final step of finding her. Now, I do want to be clear that as we are getting to the final step, that doesn't mean we are over and done with this podcast. These steps are a continual process, and they come back in different ways, shapes, and forms. And sometimes we get, kicked back a little bit too, where we might get to the point where we're starting over, and then we get a few steps in, and then all of a sudden we really need to go back and talk about accountability again, or talk about something that was affecting us in a way that we got to revisit building wealth. Or, we thought we forgave ourselves and we didn't. Or we did some branding and we realized that branding really wasn't as authentic as it should have been, and that we revisit it. So understand that finding her is a continual work, a continual life journey. It's, going to come in different phases, and we're going to, have conversations with women and people that I've known and respected, that I've encountered in my life too, that they have great stories of how they've gotten through some things and how they continue to struggle with others. And that's what keeps it real, and that's what keeps, I think, this this message and this movement really just critical. It just makes it critical, and it makes it important, because life isn't a quick fix. It's a continuation of an evolving process. I'm using a lot of big words today. That big words for me. That it's something that we want to continue this process, because that means that you're growing and that you're building upon yourself, and you're just continuing to become a better individual for yourself, which in turn helps everyone else around you, from your children to your families to your loved ones to your, business and your colleagues to your partners and all that stuff. So understanding that when we're diving into this final step that I call the art of giving zero fucks, yeah, you're going to give zero fucks. But if we go through this process again and again, you're going to give even less zero fucks. And even there, because we'll be at negative zero fucks at some point, which is a great place to be, because that's when you really know you love yourself for you. And good, bad, and ugly with any of the situations, because we're never perfect, but you've evolved yourself enough to know when it gets ugly, how to be accountable for it, how to get out of it, how to own what you did wrong, learn the lesson, and do it right next time. Because we're a work in progress, and that's kind of cool. So, of course I have a quote. I mean, why wouldn't I have a quote? I mean, it's a fucking thing now. So, you ready? Let me clear my throat. That song goes in my head that's how I went to high school in the 90s. That was that song that, every time you say those terms, you're just going to hear it. Let me clear my throat. Okay, stop. Anyway, I quote. Oh, I didn't even clear my throat. I quote, "The more comfortable you become in your own skin, the less you need to manufacture the world around you for comfort." Let me read that again. The more comfortable you become in your own skin, as we talked about loving yourself, the less you need to manufacture the world around you for comfort. That's powerful, because when you get to the point of you knowing, honoring, being genuine and authentic with who you are, everyone else falls into place. From where you live, what you do, how you work, how you expand, how, the shit you tolerate, the shit that you are not willing to tolerate, and tolerate in the meaning of acceptance. And you accept it in a way that is wholeheartedly in your own best interest. And that's why we call it the art of giving zero fucks. So when you get to that point of that, the people around you that aren't in that same element, that haven't done the work, that haven't evolved, they get scared. And it's pretty powerful. But you have to understand what it is and why it's happening and let the pieces fall where they may. Because that kind of goes into the other phases of it. Because even as you are silencing the noise, and even as you are learning how to not have expectations, they're going to still creep in. And they're going to creep in ways that are unexpected. So when you do the work and really understand and kind of start focusing on the good habits versus the bad, you'll be able to understand that when you get that kickback or you get that kind of push or anger or argument or gossip that's happening around you, understand you're doing something right. And understand your position in that, and understand that is their insecurity, that is not yours, and you're doing it, founders. So the first point that we talk about with zero fucks is continuing to educate yourself and celebrate the accomplishments, whether they're big or small. And, I am the first, I am guilty of that. I don't always, sometimes I'll mitigate some of the wins because I'm like, I don't have time. Or I don't tell people in the sense of my inner circle. Like, I'll be like, oh, it's okay. They got something going on or this and that. And I need to do that more. And you need to do that more because there's something energetically about when you shift your mindset and you say, you know what? I'm really proud of myself. I did this. I'm happy. And you smile. That little win turns into a bigger win for something else. And then a bigger win for that. And then when you have your inner circle and they're turning around and they're cheering you on, you got that extra kick in the ass to really go for that next win. And it starts to snowball into something pretty fucking powerful and exciting and great. And next thing you know you're so focused on the glass being half full versus the glass being half empty that your mindset changes and you refocus yourself in a way that you're just able to achieve your goals quicker, faster, in more strategically in a way that you're making less mistakes because you've done the work, you've learned the lessons. You're basically, poking holes into those new projects and plugging them in so it takes off in a way that's just working, smarter versus harder. And it's a great place to be. And, your life is about fulfillment. It's about looking forward and advancing and evolving. It's not about complacency and comfort. So the second you get stuck in those ways and the second you start focusing on the negative is the second that things start to shift. When you start focusing on the positive and allowing people to share those with you in a way that's not there's a difference between sharing and being happy and bragging. And that's the thing. Bragging sometimes is throwing things on social media, look at me, and I'm doing this and that, and I did this, and da-da-da. It's not that. It's calling up someone and saying, hey, you know what? I just got this new client that I bid against 3 other people, and we got it. We won. And I'm excited. And that other person on the other side of the phones, or FaceTime is like, holy shit, you did. I'm so happy for you. Those are things that are so organic and they feel so good and they're special. And that just leads to the next thing. And, we get so busy with day to day that we forget to do that. Or we're not comfortable doing that. I don't like, believe it or not, I don't like attention on me. If I ever see you out in public and someone sends over a birthday cake or has someone sings happy birthday to me in a restaurant, That's 4. Because I hate that more than anything else. Another thing, or like when they bring out a dessert and there's a sparkler in it, that is my worst fear. I loathe that type of attention beyond belief. And and as I'm recording this and filming this, my birthday's coming up, and that is the way that my friends love to torture me, is to embarrass me in a public place. So it's a thing for me, good, bad, and different. But it's also something that a lot of times I don't like that attention put on myself. So I won't tell people about the wins, and people that are in my inner circle and my friends. And I won't tell them about that because I don't know, they got their life going on, or I feel like I'm bragging and stuff like that. And and that's one of my own mistakes that I need to do more, because now I'm going to get upset again. For instance, I didn't realize how many people were supporting me with this project, that I never asked them this. They were like, I absolutely will be listening. Like, tell me when this shit, can I get a sneak peek? I am sharing this with my friends. Like, that to me means so, here we go again. That to me means so much to me. At least you know I'm authentic and an ugly crier. But it's, that's my lesson to learn, is that I need to share those things more, because here I think I'm bragging, or here I think that I'm, I don't know, bothering people, where it's something that the support is so genuine, and the support and the care and the excitement is so honest and kind, and they'll come back to me and say, hey, you've supported me, you've given me great advice, you've done all this stuff for me, I can't wait to be there for you. And you have to give people the opportunity to do that. So don't make my mistake. And I'm trying not to make those mistakes, and I'm learning that, and I'm learning how to not do that, and with that, sharing those wins, because it is important. And for the ones that are wishing you harm, don't worry about them. It's not, they're not worth it. And they're not worth your time. And it's okay, because hurt people try to hurt people, and understand that where they're coming from, send love to them, mentally, and just from your spirit and your soul, and say, I'm going to love you and hope you get through this. And hey, I've got a great podcast for you to help you through the concept called Finding Her. So, it's a win-win for everybody. Number 2, learning how to love yourself above all others, and eliminating the negative chatter and emotional setbacks, which is what we're talking about. And, it's not easy to silence the noise, because a lot of times when you are getting those wins and you're celebrating, there's still that, like, can't believe it's happening, or, because we do get into that mindset of being like, when's the other shoe going to drop? Because we've talked about this. You go through this. You'll take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, and then 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. And you get to the point where you're almost afraid to celebrate the wins, because you don't want it to go away, or you don't want it to, like, flutter and just fall off. And that's the thing. So when it's a win, and it's a genuine win, and you've done the work and you're moving forward, it's there. You own it. And it's going to take you to the next step. And sometimes that step isn't going to always be a step in that forward motion direction. Sometimes it might be a little bit sideways, or a little bit to the left or the right, or whatever the case is, or backwards. But when it happens, it also kind of creates a little bit of an accountability to go, okay, I got here. Everybody knows I got here. Now let me get to the next step. And now let me get to the next step. And that was kind of part of this with this too, where I had to give myself a goddamn deadline. I mean, this has been in the works for years. And a lot of the delay was that I was afraid to be out there and put myself out there and be vulnerable, or have the negative chatter come back. Now, if you know me personally, I don't give a shit. I have a mouth on me. I don't give a shit from a personal standpoint. Putting myself on a national, potentially, honestly, global platform for people to give a shit is a whole different element. And it's something that it's taught me that I had to prepare myself. And part of me preparing myself is going through these steps, because not only am I teaching these steps and explaining these steps and talking about these steps and engaging with you on this journey, is that I'm also going through it myself. I went through it post-divorce. I went through it through this project. I will go through it with a list of other things that I don't even know are going to happen yet in my life. So with that, you have to get to the point where you, like I keep saying, that you're that stable tree where your roots are embedded in that ground, your trunk is firm, you're growing your beautiful branches, you're growing your beautiful leaves, you're growing your beautiful flowers in a way that you love yourself. And when that storm comes through, you are still going to remain strong. You might lose a couple leaves. Flowers went flying. A branch might break. But that stable base is there. And that's that negative chatter. And you got to learn how to just let it go, not engage in it. Protect yourself, because there's a difference between negative chatter and defamation. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to be put in a position where people are defaming your name and things like that. That we've got attorneys for that. But in the sense of having that ability to understand that not everybody likes you. And I've said that from day one. You don't have to like me. You could think I'm an asshole. I've been called an asshole many times. I'll still be called an asshole. But the bottom line is, I will always be respected. I respect you. My intentions are always good. They're always pure. I might say things differently. I might say things in a way that you don't always agree with. But the bottom line is, I'm doing it in a way that is for everyone's best and highest good from my perspective. And that negative chatter, you can disagree with me. That's not negative chatter. Negative chatter is petty. Negative chatter is condescending. Negative chatter is defamation. It's jealousy. It's insecurity. It's just, hurt. So knowing the difference between what that is. And when you're at peace, you understand that when someone's trying to reject what you're doing, embracing them in a way that will get them to see the light sometimes works. Sometimes just, setting a boundary is going to work too. And that's okay. You have to do each situation is going to take its own solution. But because you've done the work, you're able to look at those different ways to have a solution where it's keeping your peace and keeping your self-esteem, your self-worth, knowing what your value is without them knocking into it in a way that keeps everyone moving forward, including yourself, and also making you a better influence for who you are and the people that are surrounded, whether they're your children, your family, your coworkers, your partner, whatever the case is. So the next one is claiming your personal, professional, and financial independence. So now there's a difference between independence and I'm independent, meaning that when you are accountable for your own emotional, physical, financial standings, you become a different person. And the relationships that you have, whether it's business, personal, love relationships, it changes the dynamic because you are solely in that relationship with that person because they provide a balance or they provide just who they are. They don't provide support. They don't provide financials. They don't provide things and you become a dependent. There's a different type of balance where you are solely with that person in whatever capacity it is because of who they are. And it's a different type of respect. And it's a different type of understanding that you don't need them. You choose to have them in your life. It's a choice. You want them in your life. It's not a necessity. And when it's not a necessity, it's special. And that relationship is cared for so much more by both parties because of those choices. And I can't emphasize it enough because this was the first thing that triggered finding her for me. So when you get to the point where there's an equal balance and you're able to choose to be together versus having to be together with becoming independent, it's a pretty fucking powerful thing to be. So, it's a really great place to be when no one can tell you how to spend your money, what to do, where to go, how to date, who not to date. Your destiny is finally your own, and it's just really fucking wonderful. And for me, when I moved to Texas after a divorce, that financially destroyed me. And part of it was the pandemic, and part of it was that my partner never got a job and allowed me to be open and vulnerable to the elements out there and let me just sit out there and start, I wasn't even paddling anymore. I was begging for help, looking for a life preserver, and he just watched me sink. And even when I tried to shift my mindset, when I was working very hard and dealing with a lot of challenges that were basically post-pandemic with my industry and having to defer rents and not having the income that we were used to having in there, and the income that I was used to having in there because no income was brought in by him, that was an eye-opener for me. Because that wasn't the person I married, that wasn't the person that I dated, and things happen. And when it shifts, if you're doing the work of finding her and understanding the implications of what you currently have and how you need to get out of it, and understanding that I have to silence this noise, like what's my family going to think if I get divorced? What are my friends? I just got married. Now I'm going to get divorced. What are they going to think? What are all these people going to do? Like, you know what? You can't give a shit about any of that stuff. You have to do what is going to help you survive and get to the next step of life, to get to the new chapter, to elevate yourself in a way that you've learned these lessons. You've embraced the heartache. You've embraced the disappointment. You've embraced the poor choices, because at the time they may have not been poor choices. They could have been the right choices at the right time, but have turned into things that have become a poor choice. You correct them. And how do you get out of it? And when I got out of it, part of it was, and I've talked about this before, is getting rid of everything and moving to a new city, changing my energy, and also being in a place that, for me, because LA, as much as an incredible city, the pandemic really took a toll on it, and it was slower to recover than a lot of other locations in the U.S. And being that my business is still face-to-face, and, as much as we did Zoom calls and hybrid meetings and stuff, it's not the same. I needed to find a location that, in the event the pandemic or something of the pandemic was to reoccur in a similar fashion, or our economy was to go even further because everybody's trying to live in denial, get worse than it is already, I needed to be in a state that I could survive. And based on how people look at events, how the laws are, how, as far as, not having gross negligence liability, if you were to throw an event and there was someone who had happened to get COVID or any type of, flu or virus that was going around, it was just that would be more sustainable for me. Now, while doing that, what I never expected in a million years, because blessings happen in ways that you just don't understand and you don't know that they're coming. Because here my life is just over. I'm having these millions of what the fuck moments. I'm crying. And ironically enough, I had not gotten COVID the entire pandemic until I moved to Texas. So I literally, right before I moved here, I had to work in Florida and do a conference for a client. And lo and behold, as I'm moving, as my life is just imploding, I get the worst case of COVID that ever existed, to the point that it was a good 8 to 10 days. I think I slept 14 hours a day. in an apartment with the bed on the floor, surrounded in boxes, because I literally came off an event. The movers had come, dropped off everything in my new place. The movers had destroyed half of my furniture. So a lot of the furniture wasn't even usable. Like, I had to go buy more. But when you are so sick that all you can do is sleep, that was all I could do. And I was sick, and my life had just turned upside down to the point where I don't think I've ever experienced something that much of a heartache. And I'm a survivor of 9/11, okay? I've been through some shit. And that was one of the worst moments in my life. And I felt like a failure. But out of that, I started to kind of not realize what I was doing, but I was building Finding Her by going through my own shit show of a mess. So it's crazy because here I am, and as I'm taking my experiences, I'm looking at the women here and seeing what they're doing and seeing that they're using marriage as income. They're only justifying their own self-worth because a man told them that they could do that. Acting in a way that I now understood for the first time why we've never had a female president, because the way that they were conducting themselves, and this was the example of what a female was in these areas, I was like, okay, if they're acting like this, as another female, I wouldn't vote for a female, and as a male, I wouldn't vote for a female. So, like, all of these things started going in my head that I never experienced living on the coast. And I'm not bashing the Texas. I am not bashing the Midwest. I'm not bashing any of that stuff. I just, living in bigger cities, and as much as where I live is a big city, it's kind of run like a smaller town. And it created this movement. My hurt, my devastation, my decision to move to a place that normally wasn't a major city. And even when I've done events, here in my past prior to living in Texas, I didn't, it wasn't that often, because it's still, as much as Dallas is a hub, it's in the last 10 years or so, it's been more of an up and coming city, even though people won't like to say it that way. But when you look at just certain things that are needed from a transportation standpoint, from a infrastructure standpoint, from hospitality, destinations, things to do, it's started to grow as a city. So, but with that, it generated this idea. So just trust me that out of the worst parts of life, there's always a silver lining. You just have to look for it. And the more you give zero fucks about what people say about it, the more that what's meant to be is going to continue to find you and flourish, because you're going to see it, and then you're going to take it and you're going to run with it. And that's what we did. And here we are. And that was only done by claiming my own independence, claiming my own personal self, my personal mistakes, my financial shit show. I mean, and yes, I can do, and I did. I blamed him for a lot of shit. And I still want to blame him for a lot of stuff. I usually, it depends on the day. Sometimes I will still. But that accountability was mine, because I let it happen. I let myself do that. I made decisions that led me to that point. Whether or not they were done with, the knowledge I know now, I would have not made those decisions. But I needed to make those decisions at that point to grow, to expand, to learn those lessons, to not make them do again, but to also get to this point of being where I am now. So I am who she is now because of who she was then. And the second that you own that, and the second that you understand that, and the second that you accept that, that's when you have all the power. And that's it. And when you have that power in yourself and that self-confidence, and you have that love for yourself, that's when shit shifts. The people around you become the people that are there that just have your fucking back. Relationships that you have your back. They're fulfilling relationships. They're people that inspire you, that keep you creative, that keep you that keep that forward motion going. That even when you fall, they pick you up when you fall. They let you learn that lesson, but they pick you up. And that's so important. And then you're there and you're strong enough to pick them up. That's when business happens. That's when opportunities happen. That's when things shift and things change. So that's my next point of trusting yourself and continuing to transform rejection into growth. And that's exactly what it is. It's your mindset becomes different. You understand that the next time you have to fucking start over, you're like, fine. Fuck it, let's go. And that's the difference. Instead of being like, oh my God, I can't start over. I'm so scared. I'm so afraid. Who wants me? What is it? You're like, fuck it. And that is such an amazing place to be in. And I'm not going to say it's not going to hurt. And I'm not going to say don't cry. And I'm not going to say don't be sad. You got to mourn it. Like we've talked about. You have to grieve the loss. You got to grieve the challenge. You got to grieve whatever the shit is that comes at you sideways. But you kind of roll with it a little bit more. Like you just, here we go again. Rolling with the homies. Okay. Clueless. We got that. One of my favorite movies. Anyway, so stupid. But that is where you really learn to roll with it. And you learn it's a different mindset. And you see those opportunities so much quicker and the pain subsides so much faster. And that's cool. So, with that, it's that zero fuck mindset and understanding that life is that continual process. And then the next point is avoiding complacency by continuing to set goals and remaining in a forward motion. So, life isn't, we don't stop living because you've reached the top of the mountain, because like I said, a great mountain has uphills, some plateaus. You think you're there, but you're not. And then there's another level, and then it plateaus. And then there's another one, and you want to always keep going up. Life is about learning. And when you talk to people that have lived life for a long, long, long time, they talk about that they're always still learning. Like, they're always still like doing things that are new and that are fresh and they're exciting. The people that have lived and are happy, I should clarify that are happy, that are feeling fulfilled, that look back on what they did and are proud of it. And that's where you need to be. And you have to understand that you just have to keep going. And sometimes we need a break. Listen, I get fucking tired. I am tired a lot. And especially, the last couple of weeks, it's just been nonstop, which is a blessing and is also a curse, where the blessing is it's all these opportunities, which is great. The curse is that I'm exhausted and you wear yourself down from a health standpoint. So you just have to always take care of you and know where that push and pull are. So if you need that little break, you take that break, but that break doesn't turn into complacency, or that break doesn't turn into falling into old habits, because that's the only thing that you got to just really watch for. And if you're around a certain group that you've been able to curate that have your back, they're going to hold you accountable, and they're going to bring you back to, like, okay, it's all right. You had your little break. You breathe. You gave some breaths. You chilled a bit, but now it's time to come back. And, sometimes you do need that break for a fresh take on things. Sometimes, and I had to do that. I mean, I've done that before where I've started a project, I've stopped, I put it down for a bit because I'll get more into wanting to finish it and go, instead of putting it down, letting it breathe, letting it sit. I walk away from it. I come back to it, look at it from a different standpoint that might be more strategic, that might help increase the success of the entire project. So there's different elements to it. So there's no one way for anything. Like, it's just, I hate saying words, especially in this day and age where I'm like, Don't be complacent. And then what does complacent look like? Oh, well, I just took a vacation. No, I'm saying take a vacation. I'm saying sometimes you need to break from something. Sometimes you just need to open a book. Sometimes you need to read another book. Sometimes you just want to watch a TV show. Sometimes you just want to scroll on social media. But you can't, there's a difference between doing that and taking a break and it becoming a distraction and falling into your own ways or your older ways, your finding her ways. And that, Founders, is where you have to just check yourself before you wreck yourself. And I'm doing this all day today. I'm just going to do it all day. Sorry. I'm not sorry. I give zero fucks on that. It's a good song. And the next point we have is showing gratitude through giving back and supporting others. We are in it together, Founders. And the more thankful you become about the small wins and the positive things that are happening, it gives you space and it opens more space to kind of give back to others. And I just think that's so important. I am so thankful for the people that have helped me in my life going forward. And sometimes that help was a lesson. That help was a disappointment. That help was a hurt. That help was having to work through something that I didn't think I would have to work through in life. And that's okay. It's not all good, but there are good out there. And those good things, the people that have helped me on my way up in my career or when I'm advancing in something, because like I say way up, I'm still going up. And, with different opportunities and opening up doors and learning, educating me and teaching me new ways to do stuff that might not be in school or might not be, they might be life lessons just in itself. Those types of things where I can give back, I always do. So for me, if someone has a genuine question or they're looking for help and it's genuine, I will always help. I will always meet you halfway. But that effort needs to be there because I think sometimes people ask for help when they see that you've succeeded in something, where they ask for help and they just want you to do it for them. That's not what we do, and that's not what I do, and that's not what I recommend you to do. It's to help in a way that helps them learn, helps them find her, and that's the thing. It's you have to do that where you're not becoming a crutch based on your good fortune. You're giving back and pushing along that good fortune and that good karma that kind of keeps that forward motion of advancing in a way where we're advancing together in an organic, in a positive manner, in a way that helps where it's keeping that healthy competition and keeping people going and fighting to get to where they need to get, but in a way that's not a crutch, in a way that's not like hindering someone or just doing it for them, because it's not going to, that lesson's still going to need to be learned in one way, shape, or form. But always giving back, I think, is really important in anything that I can usually do and lend my time to that makes sense, in that it's a win-win for everyone. Because part of giving zero fucks is also making sure that it's making sense for you. Because if it's pulling from your energy and it's pulling from what your brand is and what you're focused on and things like that, it might be, also a hindrance. So it's got to be something that is right, because then once again, there could be a lesson out of that too. So just keeping your mind and your eyes open and just, making sure that it's the right thing, and your gut will always tell you that. And the last and final point I want to make is to continue to keep up the daily fight for your present and future self. That future self, she's counting on you. It's because where you are now, I always get emotional at endings. It's such a weird thing for me. Where you are now, and it's not the end. It's just the end of this chapter of these lessons. That's all it is. So, I'm being a little bit dramatic. It's your future self is counting on the mistakes and the wins and the goals that you're doing now. Where she needs to be, you're getting her there now, and just don't forget that. And that comes with things that are not perfect. But the more that you just equipped yourself with the right skills, the right way to just kind of silence that chaos around you and trust yourself, do the work, trust yourself, Trust those that are your confidence, that you've vetted. Trust those that are giving you different opportunities. Review, do the work. And when you do the work, you're going to mitigate the mistakes. The mistakes are going to be made here or there because that's just life, and that's part of it. We are here to learn. We are here to grow, and that's the only way you learn is from lessons, is from mistakes, is from challenges. And when you do have those challenges, you tend to appreciate the good so much more. And that's really fucking important. But, when you have the right skills, team, lessons, research that put it together, the odds of just it being so much more great are they're in your favor. So, but just understand that this has only just begun. This is part of just such a bigger movement, and I am so excited to share that with you, founders. I mean, you guys are my inspiration, and I hope that I'm inspiring you, because that's been my goal. I just don't like to hear myself talk. I'm just not out here just throwing my business where I'm throwing it, because that's not what I do. I'm here to make a difference, and I'm doing it with you. And you help me with this, and if I can help back, then we're doing it right. So that is giving zero fucks. And and when there's a hater, there's a troll, and it's okay, because you're watching. So I did my job, and I get that, and I appreciate that. So more importantly than anything else, thank you. I don't think I've said it enough, but thank you for being here with me on this journey, because it's only just begun. But as we are closing this one out, I have to have my relatable question. So, with that relatable question, I reached out to my founders, and this is what came back. So the question is, what happens if I think I've gotten to the point of giving zero fucks and realize I'm not emotionally there yet? Number one, you are, because you realize that you're not there yet. So you have gotten to the point where you're emotionally connected in yourself to know that you still have to do some work on yourself. So congratulations to that. Number two, as I said earlier, these steps, there's no timeline, there's no time frame, there's no reason you can't go one forward and two back, and go back and then look at it again and say, you know what? I was going in this direction. Let me redirect this. Let me revisit accountability. Let me revisit how I am branding myself, because how you maybe initially thought you were going to do it, as you progress into it, it may change. And sometimes you have to revisit that. Sometimes you have to get to the point where healing takes time, and there's no timeline. You can give a funeral to whatever that situation is, or person, or whatever the case is, but there's no timeline on when it needs to go. Will I tell you, get your shit going and get moving? Yeah, because life is short. Absolutely. But you still have to do the work to get through the process. And that takes emotional growth. That takes emotional awareness. And sometimes, too, my first line is, I am not a therapist. I am not a life coach. I'm not a psychologist. That sometimes you need one of those. And there's some great experts out there that can really help you through these times that are troubled times. That some things, yes, you can work through yourself and build on yourself and build with your core group that's together. But sometimes you do need, expertise. And that's a great thing to have, and and have it accessible to you. So if you feel that you need more, there are resources. Reach out to me. I can give you resources in your area. I am certainly someone that is always, when someone asks for help, we are here to help, and here to help with education and understanding, and it's not just about a quick fix, because this is about you. This is about your healing journey. This is about becoming a better woman for yourself. So with that, having different elements that can come into play, it's super important. So we are here, we are in it together, and I mean that wholeheartedly. So founders, if you're not emotionally there yet, or you feel like you haven't been able to give zero fucks, take some steps back, or even listen, start from starting over again. I mean, go right back to the beginning, because you might have to go through that whole phase and each step again. But as you go through it, you may go through it quicker. Or you say, hey, you know what? I got this one down. This one, I might not, this one I do want to revisit, and go through it all again. And you're going to know what you need. Because when you listen to yourself and you understand yourself and understand where you are presently and where you want to go, you're going to understand what your needs are. And that's pretty awesome. So, of course, we have to end this with a Charlieism, because why would we not? So this one isn't. It's sort of related. And he said this more than once. And he likes to say this to me often. But and it's kind of part of Zero Fucks, but, gotta love my dad. So his quote was, "You've got a big mouth, and one day you're going to get clocked. So you better know how to defend yourself." Yeah, I got a big mouth. And my parents made me take years of self-defense classes, karate, all kinds of stuff, boxing, all of that stuff, because they didn't trust that my mouth wouldn't get me in trouble. And to be honest with you, my mouth has gotten me in a shit ton of trouble a lot. My mouth has gotten me fired. My mouth has gotten me in plenty of situations. Clocked once. I'll tell that story another day. But my next comment out of that is, if you hit me once, you better hope you knock me out, because if you don't, look out. So, and we're going to use that as an analogy, because I don't condone physical violence, so don't at me. But you should always know how to defend yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually. Know how to defend yourself, and that comes with giving zero fucks. So giving zero fucks with doing the work, knowing who you are, being that tree trunk with those roots steady in the ground, ready to weather the storm. We're doing it together, founders. I love you. I am so proud of you. I am proud we did this. Now I'm going to cry again. Oh my God, so corny. Anyway, so we got this next week anyway. Oh, what is the matter with me? I think I need a tissue endorsement at this point, the way that I start tearing up. But just joking. Depends on how much I can be bought. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. So anyway, let's get to the point here. I'm proud of you. We are in it together, founders. You inspire me. I hope that I inspire you. I hope that I make you think. I hope that I challenge you in ways that you haven't been challenged before. And sometimes you might hate me for it, but it's okay, because you know that it's out of love. It's out of caring. It's out of your best interest. And it's out of my need and my desire to make sure that we are in this together, and that you feel like there's a safe space, and that you feel like we can just talk about it with no judgment. And there's none here. So as always, you got more questions, thoughts, topics. I mean, send me your stories. I mean, we can keep them anonymous. We can keep them, however, it's up to you. And these stories don't always have to be entertaining. They could be thought-provoking. They could be sad. They could be challenging. They could be about fear. Or, as we talked about it, tell me a story about a win, because that's important too. So whatever it is, definitely send it to me. I am here. I am listening. I want to hear from you, because we are in it together. So that's the whole point of this whole Finding Her revelation. So send me a DM at Finding Her the Show, or you can always send me an email at standinformation.com. We've got a whole contact page on there. And don't forget, just like, follow, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell your friends about us, because that's what keeps it around. That's what keeps this project going. And we're in it together. So I appreciate you. I love you. I thank you. And keep finding her, my amazing founders. Bye.